Triple H strips Seth Rollins' title and fires him. YouTube script. Triple H just dropped the most brutal career-ending bombshell in WWE history by stripping Seth Rollins of his championship and firing him from the entire WWE brand, and the shocking reason behind this termination will make you question everything you thought you knew about the Monday Night Messiah. What we witnessed wasn't just disciplinary action, it was the complete character assassination of a former company golden boy who pushed the game too far and is now paying the ultimate price for his arrogance. If you think this was just another wrestling storyline designed to create buzz, you're about to discover the devastating truth about what Seth Rollins did behind the scenes that was so unforgivable that Triple H had no choice but to destroy his entire career in the most public and humiliating way possible. The footage of Seth's termination will make your blood boil with rage. Seth Rollins, you are hereby stripped of your championship and terminated from World Wrestling Entertainment effective immediately. Those weren't just words from an angry executive, they were the death sentence of a wrestling career delivered by a man who had finally witnessed one act of betrayal too many from someone he once considered family. You want to talk about bridges being burned beyond repair? Seth Rollins didn't just cross a line with his backstage behavior, he committed an act of corporate treason so shocking and disrespectful that even his biggest supporters are questioning whether he deserves to ever work in professional wrestling again. The evidence against him is absolutely damning. The emergency board meeting that led to Seth's termination lasted over 4 hours, with Triple H presenting such overwhelming evidence of misconduct that WWE executives had no choice but to authorize the most severe punishment in company history. What Seth did wasn't just unprofessional, it was a betrayal of everything WWE stands for. But here's what makes this situation absolutely infuriating. Seth had been planning this backstage coup for months while pretending to be the loyal company man that management trusted with their most prestigious championship. Every smile, every handshake, every public endorsement was part of an elaborate deception designed to mask his true intentions. The investigation into Seth's activities revealed a pattern of manipulation and corporate sabotage that goes back nearly a year. While fans were cheering his championship reign and praising his dedication to the company, he was systematically working to undermine WWE's authority structure from within. Here's a question that's going to expose just how naive wrestling fans really are. Did you honestly believe Seth Rollins' public displays of company loyalty were genuine, or were you starting to suspect something was wrong with his overly perfect corporate image? The most shocking evidence against Seth came from recorded phone conversations where he was heard discussing plans to expose WWE's corporate corruption and bring down the power structure that's been holding back real talent. The betrayal was so calculated that it took investigators months to uncover the full scope of his conspiracy. But the smoking gun that sealed Seth's fate was the discovery of confidential WWE documents on his personal devices. Not only was he stealing corporate secrets, he was planning to leak them to wrestling journalists as part of a coordinated campaign to damage the company's reputation and stock price. The level of corporate espionage and betrayal involved in Seth's scheme was so sophisticated that it required involvement from external parties with experience in industrial sabotage. This wasn't just a disgruntled employee, this was a professional attack on WWE's business operations. Quick question for the corporate security experts: how many federal crimes do you think Seth Rollins committed while planning his corporate sabotage campaign against WWE? The most devastating revelation came when Triple H revealed that Seth had been secretly recording private conversations with WWE executives for over 8 months. The violation of trust and potential legal liability created by this surveillance operation was so severe that immediate termination was the only option. Seth Rollins violated every principle of professional conduct, personal integrity, and corporate loyalty, Triple H announced during the termination press conference. He betrayed not just his employer, but every wrestler who trusted him with confidential information and every fan who believed in his character. But perhaps the most disgusting aspect of Seth's betrayal was how he used his championship status to gain access to sensitive information that he planned to weaponize against the company. He exploited the trust that comes with being a title holder to gather intelligence for his sabotage operation. The investigation revealed that Seth had been using backstage interviews, champion meetings, and creative discussions to collect damaging information about WWE's internal operations. Every conversation he had with management was secretly recorded and analyzed for potential use in his planned exposé. The breadth of his intelligence gathering was absolutely staggering. Seth had compiled files on executive salaries, backstage politics, contractual disputes, and creative decisions that he planned to leak strategically to cause maximum damage to WWE's reputation and business operations. Here's another question for the legal experts: what kind of criminal charges could Seth Rollins potentially face for corporate espionage, theft of proprietary information, and conspiracy to damage a publicly traded company? The most infuriating discovery was that Seth had been recruiting other wrestlers to join his anti-WWE conspiracy. Multiple performers have come forward to report that he approached them about participating in his planned corporate takedown, offering them financial incentives to provide insider information. The attempted corruption of other roster members shows that Seth wasn't just planning to destroy his own career, he was willing to drag innocent colleagues down with him in his quest for revenge against WWE management. The selfishness and manipulation involved is absolutely nauseating. But the final straw that triggered his immediate termination was when Seth attempted to hack into WWE's financial databases to steal information about executive compensation and profit margins. The cybercrime crossed every possible line and made his continued employment legally impossible. The digital forensics investigation revealed that Seth had been using sophisticated hacking tools to infiltrate WWE's computer systems for months. The level of technical preparation involved proves this was a long-term operation designed to cause catastrophic damage to the company. The most shocking evidence came from Seth's own digital devices, which contained detailed plans for releasing stolen information in coordinated waves designed to maximize stock price damage and public relations disasters. He wasn't just stealing information, he was planning economic warfare against his own employer. Here's a question about professional ethics: how could any wrestling company ever trust Seth Rollins again after he demonstrated such willingness to betray, spy on, and attempt to destroy his employer? The legal ramifications of Seth's actions are absolutely staggering. WWE's legal team is reportedly preparing criminal charges for corporate espionage, theft of trade secrets, computer fraud, and conspiracy to commit economic terrorism. His wrestling career is the least of his concerns now. But perhaps the most devastating consequence of his betrayal is how it has destroyed his relationships with every wrestler who trusted him. Multiple performers have come forward to express their disgust at learning that their private conversations with Seth were being recorded and analyzed for potential use against WWE. The testimonies from other wrestlers paint a disturbing picture of systematic manipulation and betrayal. Seth would ask seemingly innocent questions about our contracts, our complaints, our personal situations, one anonymous performer revealed. Now we know he was gathering intelligence to use against all of us. The violation of trust among the roster has created a toxic atmosphere where wrestlers are questioning every conversation and doubting every friendship. Seth's betrayal has poisoned the entire backstage environment and destroyed the camaraderie that makes professional wrestling possible. The most heartbreaking testimony came from wrestlers who considered Seth a genuine friend and mentor. "I told him things about my family, my finances, my career concerns because I thought he cared about me as a person," one performer revealed through tears. "Finding out he was recording everything and planning to use it against the company that employs all of us feels like the worst kind of betrayal." Here's an emotional question for the wrestling community: how long do you think it will take for the roster to rebuild the trust and brotherhood that Seth Rollins systematically destroyed through his betrayal? The financial impact of Seth's espionage operation is still being calculated, but early estimates suggest that his planned information releases could have caused hundreds of millions in market capitalization losses. The economic terrorism he was planning makes his termination seem almost merciful. The investigation has also revealed that Seth was working with external parties who specialize in corporate warfare and hostile takeovers. This wasn't just personal revenge, this was a professional attack on WWE designed to create opportunities for competitors and short sellers to profit from the company's destruction. The most disturbing aspect of this conspiracy is that Seth was apparently being paid by outside interests to gather intelligence and create chaos within WWE. He wasn't just betraying his employer for personal reasons, he was literally being compensated for corporate treason. The identity of Seth's co-conspirators remains classified, but sources suggest they include former WWE executives with grudges against current management, rival entertainment companies, and financial organizations with short positions in WWE stock. The scope of the conspiracy is absolutely mind-blowing, but perhaps the most shocking revelation is that Seth's termination may just be the beginning of a massive investigation that could expose corruption and corporate espionage throughout the entertainment industry. His cooperation with federal authorities could determine whether he faces decades in prison or gets a reduced sentence. Here's a final question for the industry watchers: do you think Seth Rollins' corporate espionage scandal will trigger investigations into similar activities at other wrestling companies and entertainment corporations? The most tragic aspect of this entire situation is how completely Seth Rollins destroyed his own legacy through greed and betrayal. He went from being one of WWE's most respected champions to being a corporate criminal who may never work in entertainment again. The psychological profile of what drove Seth to commit these crimes reveals a man consumed by resentment and entitlement who couldn't handle not being the absolute center of attention and decision-making power. His need for control and revenge ultimately destroyed everything he had worked to achieve. The impact on his family and personal relationships has been equally devastating. Sources close to Seth report that his wife has filed for separation, his friends have cut off contact, and even his own relatives are struggling to understand how he could betray so many people who trusted and supported him. The complete social isolation that comes with being exposed as a corporate traitor and potential federal criminal has left Seth with nothing but the consequences of his own choices. He traded a legendary wrestling career for a few months of secret recordings and stolen documents that ultimately meant nothing. But perhaps the most fitting justice is that Seth's championship reign will forever be remembered not for his in-ring accomplishments, but for the betrayal and criminal activity that ended it. He corrupted his own legacy so thoroughly that fans will never be able to separate his achievements from his crimes. The wrestling world is safer and more trustworthy without Seth Rollins in it, and Triple H deserves credit for having the courage to take decisive action against corporate espionage and betrayal. Sometimes the only way to protect an entire industry is to make an example of those who would destroy it from within. Seth Rollins' career is over, his reputation is destroyed, and his freedom may soon be taken away, all because he chose betrayal over loyalty and crime over integrity. The Monday Night Messiah has become nothing more than a cautionary tale about the consequences of corporate treason.